Whew.
What's up, everyone? We did it. It's a new year. It's 2026. And it's going great so far. Okay, so today I don't have much of a plan. I have a couple things. That I've been thinking about, right? I have a lot of things I'm working on. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up this year at Code TV. We got some fun stuff going on in my personal life. Just it's been a fun little bit going on. So this is let's see, is that going to be better? Regular? How about you? Yeah, that seems okay. Playing with this comment overlay. This is like a new feature from StreamYard, and so I'm trying to figure out how exactly it works. But yeah, this way I don't have to do like the manual highlighting, although that is cool. Like, what's up, Alex? How you doing? I like that I can show faces. That's nice. Forgot you loaded it. You're welcome. Hi, buddy. Yeah. So basically, we got a lot of things going on. I'm excited. And I am also just kind of curious, like, what's up, y'all? What's going on? What's new? Somebody rearranged my desk, and I don't like it. I don't like that somebody did that. It's tough, the one thing that I don't like about having my office be also an active studio is that other people are in here. And that's a reasonable thing. That's how the business operates. But they touch stuff, and I know they don't mean to, but it makes me want to do things, not nice things. Was somebody me? It wasn't. No, it actually wasn't me. No, I have. So we do like rentals and stuff, and so people will rent cameras. They'll rent the studio to shoot something, and you just have to rearrange when that happens. And so like they'll set this desk up, like during Web Dev Challenge, for example, this desk is the where the makeup station is. So all the makeup gets laid out here, which means all of my stuff goes off the desk and off to the side. This gets completely covered in different materials for doing makeup. And then once they take off, I have to kind of reassemble it. I'm one of the exciting things that I'm working on this year that is about to pick up in earnest. I talked about this earlier, and then it sort of stalled over the holidays, but I've been trying to buy a building. And this is one of those, like, when something feels like it's not like it's necessary, but it also is really is going to be helpful. That's how I feel about buying a building, because right now I'm renting this building, right? And so this building is good, but and some of you have been here, you know, like the bathroom sucks, and it's pretty much as full as it can be for what we're using it for, right? And we have, like, there's a new season of Web Dev Challenge kicking off, and on top of that, we're actually doing a new series that I need to name still, but it's going to be a little bit more like Beat Bobby Flay, like it's actual head to head. And the premise of it is that we're going to have teams. It's going to be teams of 3 this time, 2 teams head to head, and they're going to be attempting to recreate an existing app, right? So it'll be a little bit more time on the clock, way more ambitious in terms of what you're trying to get done, and a bigger team. But we're going to bring in judges. We are going to bring in a host. I'm actually not going to be in the show. I'm really excited about that. This is going to be the first show that I'm not in at all. I'm going to be the executive producer and director, but I won't be on camera. So really excited about that. I think that's going to be really cool to expand Code TV in that way. But like, where are we going to put it? I'm actively trying to rent a location right now, because we don't have space for it here. And that feels silly, right? Because now I'm renting a location here, I'm also paying to rent other locations, and all of that combined is way more than I would pay as a mortgage on a larger building. And, like, the things that I wanna change here, for example, like, I'd love to grind and seal the floor because it's not quite level, it's been painted and the paint chips, and it's just kinda, it's just not, like, it's not ideal, right? That I wouldn't I'd be basically, like, donating to the landlord, and same with the bathroom. If I fix the bathroom, the landlord's not gonna give me any, like, I think it's called tenant improvement dollars or something like that. It's not coming off my rent, right? So I'm basically just donating to the building owner. And while that would be fine if this place was perfect for me, it's just a little, we've outgrown it, right? So it's time for Code TV to move into a bigger space. I started looking, and rent is going to be higher than a mortgage would be, most likely. And then I'd be in the same situation if I was renting. So I've started the process of trying to buy a building. I'm looking for kind of a warehouse style space. The geographic area that I want to buy in is pretty limited, so it's going to be a slow hunt. But hopefully, fingers crossed, by the middle of this year, I'll be getting ready to move into the new space and figuring all that out. I think it'll be good. So all that being said, I am starting to look at that. That's wild. Well, okay, but here's the thing. I'm still on camera for Web Dev Challenge. I'm still on camera for Learn with Jason. I'm still on camera if we end up doing another season of Leet Heat, where we're working on, like, bringing back Web Lunch, which I'm the host of, right? So I'm on camera for a lot of what we do at Code TV. But my vision for Code TV is that this is more like the Discovery Channel, right? And I watched the Discovery Channel so that I could see Anthony Bourdain when he was doing Parts Unknown. I think that might have been on CNN, but you know what I mean? Like, concept applies. There's the network, and then the network option shows. And those shows have different hosts, and you like some of them and you don't like some of them. But the point is that there's options. And so I am fully convinced that while I like me and I like being on camera, I also know that I'm not necessarily everybody's, like, favorite internet personality, and that there's a million people who are really funny, who deserve to have a spotlight as well, right? And so my thought is, if we can basically expand the circle, have more shows, have more hosts, allow more people to create. Long-term vision is that Code TV is a TV network, and underneath it are lots of shows, some of which are maybe produced by Code TV, probably most of which are produced by Code TV. But, like, wouldn't it be cool if somebody else produced a show and we could just pay them to syndicate it? Right? Like, it's a way to thinking about, what does a creator economy look like? I don't like the idea that the only way you can make money right now as a creator is through sponsored content. And I think you can get creative about sponsored content. I think that's how Code TV functions. Just about everything we do is sponsored, and we just get creative about how we include the sponsors so that it doesn't feel like a 30-second ad roll or something like that. But I want that to exist for other people, and I think it's the longevity of this endeavor is going to be dependent on making it something that everybody will participate in. And I think that works by making it needs to be a bigger platform. And so, looking at Dropout TV is a good example of a model that I think works really well. Dropout TV is viewer supported, so people pay $5, or you can choose to pay more per month to be able to watch Dropout TV stuff. They do not have sponsors, which is not currently an option for Code TV, but I hope will be in the future for at least some of the material that we make. And if you look at the Dropout lineup, a lot of it is Sam Reich, who is the creator of Dropout. A lot of it is Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is, if he's not a creator, he was ground floor, like, foundational to the success of Dropout TV. But they've also got a lot of shows that don't have either of them in it, and those shows are good. They're good and they're fun to watch, and I think it strengthens that network that you can watch Game Changer, and you can watch Dimension 20, but you can also watch Smarty Pants, right? And when you watch Smarty Pants, you're not going to see Sam Reich or Brennan Lee Mulligan, but it's a great show no matter what. They've got, I think, 20-ish original series on there, and I would say at least half of them don't feature the creator. And so that's like the long-term vision, right? And I think in order to make that happen, we've got a long way to go. There are several things that need to get fixed. Like, one, I have a chicken and egg problem where I don't currently have the budget at Code TV to produce supporter only content, right? Which would be the incentive for somebody to become a subscriber so that they could watch the content that is only available if you're a supporter. Sponsors are not going to pay to make a show that is then only available to this very limited number of Code TV supporters. That doesn't make any sense. So then the chicken and egg problem is we need to have enough capital that we can produce some shows that are good so that people want to sign up, support, so that they can watch those shows. And we need to be consistent enough with it that when somebody's paying us $5 or $20 a month, depending on what we end up doing, that money feels like a worthwhile spend. Because I think right now, and I love you all so much for this, I think people support because they want to see Code TV succeed. I don't know that there's really a value exchange that is it's supporting because they believe in it, not necessarily supporting because they're receiving value that's equivalent to what they're paying, right? And so that's something that's a big focus in this going into this year is going to be, how do we bridge that gap? We fixed a few things in our the way that we're budgeting, in the way that we are trying to do some spend control, trying to make sure that some of the profits are being held aside into a development fund. So I think there's a path toward being able to do this. I'm trying really hard to not do I don't want to take investment because I'm worried about, and I know that there's ways to take investment. I've talked to some folks who've done it where you can get money without ceding any control, right? And I do think that there's a world where Code TV could get an investor, and if that investor was willing to basically do an investment for a percentage but not any control, no board seat, no oversight, then that's possibly a way to go. But I don't love that idea. I really like that Code TV is bootstrapped right now. I really like that it's been able to grow without any artificial injections of cash. And I'm cautiously optimistic that that growth is sustainable right now without having to hire tons and tons of people, without having to get into burn rates that we're trying to match up to revenue. Code TV is cash flow positive. It has been since day one, and it has a path where I think it can remain that way. It does mean that I can't hire the help that I would love to have right now. And I've got some ideas for things that may or may not happen. They're all way too early to discuss in any kind of serious way right now. But there's some things that may or may not materialize later this year that would be an effort to sort of correct that, build some, because right now we don't have recurring revenue. I think Code TV's recurring revenue is somewhere around $700, which is awesome. Love it. But it's not going to pay for an employee. It's not going to pay the rent. It's not going to fund a show. So we need to start growing toward my target is to figure out how to get Code TV to 20 grand a month in recurring revenue, because that would fund a show. Kind of. It would fund a show if we saved it up for a little bit and then put it all into making a show a few episodes at a time. But that's better than nothing, right? And that would help sort of build the flywheel here. So we're working on it. We're trying to figure out different ways to make that happen. I'm exploring some things that will make my life a little bit less hectic. Right now I do sales, I do accounting, I do budgeting, I do admin, I do the producing, I do directing, I do I'm kind of taking on a lot of just about every role, which is really fun, but it also is very much a rate limit on what can get done. And I think I'm moving slower than I should be. So I'm exploring with I'm working with a producer now for the first time, where we've got a freelance producer who's going to be helping with one of the projects we got going this year. I'm doing that with a couple of things. So I got a couple different producers I've worked with. We're getting a little bit better at budgeting. Like I at some point I should talk through how my I don't this wouldn't be interesting to anybody but me, but how to build a budgeting spreadsheet and how to think through what costs impact how to budget for something, and how to get away from the trap. I feel like a lot of agencies that I've worked with, they just sort of get a quote from somebody and then they multiply the quote by 3 and they're like, that's how much it'll cost. Um, I remember when I was working for an agency and I was doing web dev way back in the day. I was a contractor, and they were working for a big company, like one of the companies you've heard of, and we were building an event landing page. They asked me to build a website, and they were like, "Okay, how much would it cost us to build this website?" And I think I quoted them $80 an hour, $100 an hour, something like that. It was great money for me. I think I made, as an individual, I made like 13 grand for a few weeks worth of work, which was more than I'd ever made in my career up to that point. It was amazing money. They accidentally included me on an email where I saw what they were charging the client, and they were charging the client $400 an hour for my time. And that felt egregious, right? Because that's I don't know, I don't like that, right? So I think that budgeting should be, you need a markup on rates because subcontractors, you're managing them, you've got the accounting overhead, you've got to do taxes, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens that incurs extra costs when you have subcontractors. So you need a markup, but the markup should be 50%. So if you charge me $100 an hour, I charge the client $150 an hour. I think that's reasonable. Jacking it up 400% feels like a lot. It feels, kind of, that feels unreasonable to me. So anyways, figuring out how to budget in a way that, the work that's being done is being paid for, there's a profit margin in it, so that Code TV has a slush fund, so that if we do have a slow month, it doesn't mean I don't take a paycheck. If we do end up hiring an employee, which is something that I'm hoping becomes possible, we have enough in the bank that if we have a slow quarter, we don't have to do layoffs. That's all stuff that I think about a lot, because I've had employees exactly once in my life when I had my agency and I had to lay somebody off. And that was the worst feeling I've ever had, because it was basically I thought things were going to be good forever. And then we had a slow month and I wasn't building up the just in case funds because we didn't have those kind of profit margins. And, something's got to give. And it's not like I can shut down the business. So I have to look at what I can afford, and I couldn't afford salary. Right. And so I have to go tell this person who I care about a lot, who I convinced to quit their job to come work for my agency, sorry, I don't have enough money to keep paying you. Just absolutely brutal. It sucked so much, and I never, ever, ever want to do that again. So in order to do any of this stuff, I want 9 months of salary for whoever I hire in the bank, sitting in a pile, right? Because if something goes bad, I don't ever want to lay somebody off. And if I do have to lay somebody off, I want it to be after 6 months of trying literally everything to solve that problem. So anyways, yeah, that is a whole thing. Yeah, agencies on commercial work is really out of control. Team of accountants going ahead. Yeah, lead spreadsheet 100%. But yeah. Just scrolling through the chat here because I wasn't paying attention. Biggest cost of productions is crew. I spend decent amount of money on an average production of Web Dev Challenge, for example. We have 3 camera operators, one of whom is a director of photography. We've got a gaffer, we've got hair and makeup, we've got sound, we've got all the packages that we have to rent. So we're renting cameras, we're renting sound kits, we're renting hair and makeup kits. And then, well, it's crew and travel. if I geo restricted web dev challenge to only the Portland area, I think that the cost would go down by like 20%. But I don't want to do that. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to expand the budget so that we can go international with web dev challenge, because I hate that we can only do US. Of course, right now that comes with a complication that I need to film in like Europe, because I'm not trying to bring anybody into this country right now. Because if somebody gets detained at the border because of my stupid TV show, I'd never forgive myself. But so anyways, that's all. Like crew and travel are like the biggest expenses. It definitely varies based on what the thing is, but you know, that's kind of the biggest issues. And then yeah, the bathroom also needs to be fixed. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So the ads in Leet Heat were like, we never figured out how to position them right, because what the original plan was to sell ads in that fashion. Like, I really wanted a whole engine around building like ad insertion through this sort of like goofy skit-based absurdist like TV commercial format. And I think part of it was timing, because at the time that we did that, companies weren't really investing in anything. Like, it was in the heart of the super weird austerity mode. And part of it too is, I think it's hard for a company to like not take itself seriously. Like, it's got, especially if it has to go through approvals. I think it's really challenging for somebody to say like, yes, make fun of us. Because, you know, it's like, well, what's the risk? What if we're made fun of in a way that's offensive to a certain group of people? Like, you're trusting the taste of the person that's doing that so much. And we have, I think, a track record now, but at the time, I don't know. People had only seen a handful of those, and you know, it is what it is. But I think the long-term vision would be able to figure out how to do a little bit more of that. I think the hard part is we were doing all those on zero budget. So like, I was filming them, Annie and Marissa and Joel and I were writing them. We were the ones acting in them. We were basically limited to like what was in the studio for props. And we had some ideas. Like, I think some of the crew that I work with now might be down just to like make stuff for the reel, but not at the pace that we would need it to be done, right? And so that's also a challenge. So yeah, that's a vision and a thing that I would really, really, really love. But yeah. Put a lot into dev challenges. Do I think that's paid off for me? Absolutely. So the web dev challenge is far and away the financial backbone of Code TV. We've done 2 seasons. That is 25 episodes. Well, we've done 3 seasons because there was a season 0, right? The season that we did that had where everything was remote. And so that season, I think we did 4 of those. And then there were 10 episodes in the first season. So season 0 was the remote one. Season 1, we did 10 episodes, and I think we did 13 in season 2. All of season 1 and 2 were funded by sponsors, with the exception of episode 1, which I split 50-50 with DataStax. And those have really, like, you know, they're wildly popular on YouTube. People really seem to enjoy them. They've struck a good balance where you see the tool, so the sponsors are really happy because the tool is being used and it's visible in the show, but it's not so much of a, it's not like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes you watch a show and it's like somebody's reviewing a product, and you can tell that like they created the video as an excuse to like promote this product. And so I think we're balancing that well, where the goal is to build apps and you use the tool to do it. And so it's kind of like it scratches the itch I have, which is I always want to build stuff and I like learning new tools. So for me, having a tool that's like, hey, you got to use Twilio to do this, doesn't really bother me that Twilio sponsored it because like I get to learn a new thing. And now I've built a thing that I never would have built otherwise, and that's fun. And it's cool that Twilio made that possible, right? So I think that sponsorship model is easily the most successful one we figured out. I think there are other ones that I would love to go further on. Like, for example, Leet Heat. I really like the idea of just treating the community as a thing that you nurture by participating in it, right? You don't always need to be extracting or selling. And one of the things I loved about Leet Heat was like we talked about the companies, like at the beginning of a category when the category was sponsored, we would do like a 1 or 2 sentence ad read for that company. Like, this company or this category is sponsored by Neon, and Neon is the database for whatever it was. Like, however, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was like 2 sentences, right? And that I feel like was such a cool thing because they were sponsoring a category. Sometimes their category was databases, but other times their category was like internet lore, right? Like I worked with a woman named Terene who worked there. And like Terene's amazing. I worked with her a couple times on different projects at previous companies she was at. And she's just like funny, and she understands that like you don't just want to like do the webinar. So she was always down to try something weird, right? So Neon was 100% on board with like, well, we don't want to make it too like databasey. Let's have a few categories. And so like dev lore was one of them, and other companies too they were just in it because they were like, this is fun and we want to be part of this. I think Clerk is a really good example of a company that's getting this as well, where the things they're sponsoring aren't necessarily like, hey, do Clerk stuff. It's like, hey, how can Clerk be involved in doing something that the community will enjoy? And as a result, they get this sort of like positive glow of, oh yeah, they're always kind of at the epicenter of the cool stuff happening, right? And I feel like this is the really undervalued approach that companies take, and I feel like it's a really undervalued sort of strategy in general, is to look at like what most of the time somebody is not actively choosing a tool, right? Like it is pretty rare that I am actively in like database selection mode, right? And I would say I am in database selection mode more than most, and I'm still pretty rarely in database selection mode. So for a company like Neon, if they come to me and they say, hey, you should use our database, I'm like, I don't need a database right now, right? It's just not a thing that I care about. And it's not that I don't care about Neon or that I don't want to use it. It's more that like I'm not in evaluation mode. I don't need a database right now. So asking me to evaluate a database is, I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's like when somebody tries to sell you like a fridge. You almost never need a fridge, right? It's one of those. It's an appliance purchase that you make once every 10 years minimum. It feels like, unless you get unlucky or you have a chance to like do a big kitchen remodel, right? But otherwise, why would you buy a fridge? You have a fridge. It's fine. So when you're doing branding for these things, you're not necessarily trying to get somebody to immediately make a change. You're trying to make sure that you're the brand they think most fondly of when they hit that mode in the future. So by being the company that's out in the community, always seems to be in the center of everything when it's cool, everybody is always like pretty happy with the tool. When I get into evaluation mode and I go, I got a project and needs a database, I'm going to look around and I'm going to go, I'm always hearing good things about Neon. So now I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to try it. And presumably Neon has a great product. And therefore my good feelings from what they do in the community are maintained when I go on board with the product, because now I'm like, this is actually nice to use too. I see why everybody likes it. But it's just, you kind of create this confirmation bias where you've heard good things, so you assume good things, so you try it and then you experience good things, and now you're back out in the community as a happy user, so their community play turns into referral play, right? All of that is a very few people do this right, and I think it's because how do you prove ROI on being cool. You can't. You truly can't. It's just a vibe. Do you feel like this is working? And very, very, very vanishingly few companies are willing to operate on that, right? And like it's very clear when it's working. You know, when I was at Netlify, early days in Netlify, Sarah Drasner was basically convinced the company like this is the way we should be operating is like we should do things that make the company feel good, and then we should look at how the community is responding. Sorry, we should do things to make the community feel good, and then look at how the community responds. And so we would do that. We would watch, and we could see little things happen. Like the way people talked about us on social media was overwhelmingly positive at the time. And we could see like when we were doing these big efforts to, I don't know, show up places, sponsor local meetups, do fun online projects, whatever it was, we could also see that like our baseline for site visits and our baseline for new activations were like ticking up a little bit. And we could see like, so we knew we were causing a deviation from the norm that was causing Netlify to grow faster. And we could also see that when we slowed that stuff down, that we would return to baseline. So we could sort of prove, like through loose correlation, the efforts we were making were causing positive results. But as soon as we got spreadsheet people into Netlify, they like wouldn't take that as good enough. And so they started to say, prove to me how this project generates money. And I would say all the things I just said. And they would say, but you can't prove that. And I was like, I can prove that when we stop, things regress. And they were like, you can't prove that it's you stopping that causes that. And I was like, I mean, not mathematically. What are you looking for here? And they were like, show me on the spreadsheet where the dollar comes from. And of course, they killed all those projects, and now the company Netlify is virtually a ghost. Like you almost never hear anybody talk about them, unless they work at Netlify, which sucks because Netlify is a great product, and it should have a lot of users, but it just wasn't a priority for them to solve that problem. And you know, it's hard once you've lost it to like get it back. This is a good point. The not being on camera is getting ahead of the YouTuber problem. I was very conscious when I rebranded Decode TV to not make it like, because I was building on Learn with Jason. Right? That's the official company name that's like registered is Learn with Jason. And so I think the challenge becomes like, if the whole thing is built around me, like Linus Tech Tips or Marquez Brownlee or any of those, then when you try to expand, people get mad. Like I think Veritasium is doing this right now, where I just saw a post from Veritasium where he's like, the future of Veritasium. And it sounds like the main guy is expanding and bringing in producers, and they're going to be doing more stuff. But like that guy is trying to step back a little bit because it's freaking grueling to have to make a video every week or month or however. I don't know what the Veritasium publishing schedule is, but like those videos are intense. And I imagine it would be nice to be able to like take a summer off, you know. But if everybody's expecting your channel is only you, I think a really good example of this going very poorly was Binging with Babish, where Babish tried to step away and it did not work, right? Like the whole thing was sort of I think they were trying to go America's Test Kitchen style, and it just didn't work. And they had to like reconsider the whole thing, and Babish is back, and you know, that whole thing is just a bummer. Veritasium got bought by private equity. God damn it. But yeah, that's a big bummer. Working with recruitment companies is an interesting idea. I've talked to companies, and I love the idea of working with recruitment companies. That's actually when I worked with Intuit, that was the way we did it. Was Intuit? It was their recruiting team that sponsored Web Dev Challenge. I kind of loved it because they like most of the time when we do a sponsorship, they say, we want you to use exactly this tool. And that's like, I love that again, for all the reasons I described earlier. But I also kind of love this idea of like, you're hiring for this type of person. So be that type of person. Like that's what we want to see. And the breadth of what comes out of those. If you watch the finale of Web Dev Challenge, I mean, there are several things that I love about the finale of Web Dev Challenge. I think, like, you know, like Zayu and Corbin's project was such a cool one. I love, selfishly, I love that they didn't vibe code it. I'm actually leaning in season 3. I think I might push away from like vibe coding. I'm not like I'm never gonna say you can't use any AI tools, but I kind of don't like the idea of like coming on Web Dev Challenge to just sort of like set up an agent and then watch it work. I want people to code on the show. Like that's the point, you know. And we're working on some of our other series are going to lean a little more heavily into the AI tooling. So like it's not like we're going to get rid of it. I don't think that we need to get rid of it. I don't. My personal feelings about the use of AI notwithstanding, I don't necessarily think that AI as a coding tool is bad. I think that it's just like everything else we've ever invented, where it gives a big opportunity for people to stop learning. But just like every other moment where this has happened in the history of the web, people who refuse to learn don't last, right? They won't succeed. So people will continue to learn, they'll continue to do just fine, and they will do that with or without AI tools. So I don't think it's bad that we have AI tools. I think it's bad that we're marketing them as you never need to learn how to code anymore, because obviously you do, because you can, you know, we're seeing what happens when somebody vibe codes and ships it to production and then doesn't know how to debug it. So I think like my argument isn't that I don't want to see AI coding. It's that the spirit of Web Dev Challenge was people getting together to see what they can pull off, and not necessarily like agent orchestration. I think the other show should be showing off how well you can orchestrate an agent. So that's a dream. That is not a reality. It is unfortunately very dependent on sponsorship dollars, and so we will see what happens as time goes on, and whether or not I'm able to land sponsors who are aligned with that. The intention is that it will be, and that we will figure out how to do like the AI show for AI, the not AI show for not AI. And again, you know, the network is something for, hopefully, you know, different people will see different value in different shows. And I hope that everybody can learn things by watching any of these shows. And to me, it's really important that people are able to sort of look at these shows to pull something out of it, even if it's not something that you do. The same way that like when you watch, I don't know, the home renovation shows or the baking shows or the pottery shows, you're not necessarily learning how to do that skill, but like maybe you pick up a little bit of information about how to be discerning. And that's useful. That's useful information. So all of that is a big old challenge. Yeah, Babish had it there. He did a whole, I can't remember which show. I think it was either Colin and Samir, the podcast, or it was, what's the Digital Spaghetti. But he did an interview where he like really talked about that and how many things just were like working against him. And so yeah, I think, yeah, I agree, and I think that's been my struggle with it as well. Is like I have a hard time being excited about an app that I know somebody can't explain. And I think like to be clear, what I'm thinking for season 3 is not that you can't use the tools, but it's that I fully expect you to demo your code. Like I was pretty disappointed in a couple of the apps where the demo was basically like here's the app. And I was like, can you talk a little bit about the code? And they were like, no. I was like not any of it. And they're like, I didn't look at it. It's like, well, what are we doing here then? Like this isn't, to me, that doesn't, it's against the spirit of the challenge, right? The spirit of the challenge is learning something. And to me, that doesn't feel like it lines up. So I want to fix that. How to build different AI tools for your own purposes. I do think that is an interesting one. And we're trying to, I want to approach AI from a less hypey angle. Like we're trying to get a show going right now that is sort of a Bill Nye the Science Guy explainer for different components of AI. So like, let's dig into what machine learning is. Let's dig into what neural network is. Let's dig into computer vision and all these different aspects, because a lot of what we're calling AI right now, and it's getting these really sort of visceral negative reactions, is stuff that we've been using for years and years and years, and it's really helpful. And that has been bundled up with these novel and I think kind of net negative things like generative image creation. Like we know we're seeing what's happening on with Grok right now and what it's being used for. And like, I think everybody could have called that. Like we knew that as soon as you give somebody an image generator, that it would become a porn machine, and that the only reason that you need a porn machine that can generate images that don't exist is if it's a non-consensual porn machine. So congratulations, everybody. But that's not AI. That's this one tool inside of it, right? Like being able to use computer vision so that you can scan for the porn or the violence or whatever, and auto moderate that stuff so that you don't have to have a human go look at the worst things that have been ever put on the internet. That's good, right? And so I think like this is sort of where my where I'd like to go with this stuff is to treat it as like it is a toolbox, and most of the tools in that toolbox vastly predate what we are calling AI in this current marketing bubble. Some of the new tools are bad, and I don't want to teach people about those because they're not interesting, and I hope we figure out ways to control them a little bit more, and I don't want to get into that because it's just frustrating and sad, but the goal would be that you can sort of look at the components of AI to figure out which ones have utility and choose the ones that match, instead of taking a very like, I feel like we've started to move toward religious stances where it's either you believe in it, you have faith in AI, or you don't believe in it and you think everybody who has faith in it is dumb. And I think that to me is it's the same kind of extremism as like when you walk into to me it's the same as like if you walk into anywhere and you say like I like thing, and somebody who likes the opposing thing wants to fist fight you. I don't care if we're talking about football teams. I don't care if we're talking about religions. I don't care if we're talking about politics. Like having a stance that means somebody labeling themselves a thing means that you want to fight them, to me feels like you've lost the plot a little bit. So I would prefer to educate people on what the components are and let people actually, utilize or not different components so that you can make informed choices. And I know it's a lot to ask people to know everything about everything, and I know that's not possible. But I think we can do better, right? And I think that is within our reach. Yeah, you don't know how to make rough puff pastry, but you do know that if you're going on the bake off, you better know how. Exactly. And also, like when I do bake anything, there's little things that I've picked up from the bake off that make the things I bake better, right? And I'm not a baker. It's not something that I really enjoy. Marissa, my wife, is the baker. And so when I bake, I'm not doing it because I think I'm good at it. And I certainly didn't get good at it because I watched the Bake Off, but there are little tips. There's like little things that you see happen over and over and over again that you can then take home and say, I always see that like this thing goes wrong, so I'm not going to do that thing. Right. or whatever it is. So let's see. The necessity of knowing the code, the difficulty is how close we become to code when it works. And in many cases, the perception is good enough. Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like I've kind of hashed on that a lot now, so I'm gonna stop. But had a great initial screening interviews. Good luck, Fada. Congratulations. Let's see. You're either a VC or you're Ed Zitron. Right. Exactly. I don't think it needs to be that diametrically opposed, right? I think yeah, or it's that old joke from back in the good old days of Twitter that was like, oh, you like pancakes, then you must hate waffles. Right? It's like, come on, y'all. we can do more. But yeah. Anyways, so all of that is a really long way of saying this year I think is a big year because it's the first year that we're operating off of profit margins, which means it's the first year that we'll be able to invest in the business. So we'll be hopefully we're going to be buying the official Code TV studio. Hopefully we will be expanding into a few more series. We have at least one new series that's definitely coming out. We're revitalizing Web Lunch. Web Lunch, I'm really excited about, is in fact going to be the first supporter-only show. And the way that we're going to do it is I'm going to try my damnedest to imitate the way that Game Changer works on Dropout, where lots and lots of clips go out everywhere and are freely available. But the full episode is behind the Dropout subscription. And so Web Lunch, for people who don't know it, is a series where I've been sitting down with different folks in the tech community and talking to them, not just about like the thing that I'm interested in is not like, how do I become successful, but how do I build a career that meets all of my needs, right? Because I think there's a big difference between success in the professional sense, where it's, bigger title, bigger paycheck. But a lot of times you see people who are big title, big paycheck, but their personal lives suck. They only work. They don't have relationships, or they're basically ignoring their families, or they're ignoring their health, or who knows, you like the type of success I'm not interested in is the type of success that posts like hustle culture memes that's bragging about like a sleeping bag under their desk, that's working the 90 whatever it is, the 610, is that the whatever it was, the 610 work week, where they're like basically just saying, yeah, I overwork myself because I'm a hustler, and you gotta want it if you want to do all this stuff. And again, just blatantly ignoring all the science that says that that doesn't work and actually makes you less productive. But whatever, well, they'll learn it eventually, probably. But that type of success isn't interesting to me because I've played that game. I've been the 90-hour work week guy. I've been the give up on all my relationships and my health and my outside of work plans to try to become more successful. And I think there's like a argument to be made for early career optimization in that direction. Like, you can say, my goal right now is to optimize for career growth. So I'm not going to date. I'm not going to, I don't know, book any trips. I'm not going to accept social invitations. I'm only trying to clear this next hurdle. But it has to be short term, and it has to have some kind of a what's next, right? I think a lot of times people start that way. They're like, I got to grow. And then they don't have a next. And so the what's next becomes number go up. And then they're just caught in that trap forever, and they get miserable and they become Elon Musk. because that to me, that's just like if number go up continues unchecked, that's what you grow into is a completely more like empty shell of a human that's just after money. Uh, to me, that sucks. I don't want to talk to people like that. I want to talk to people who really enjoy their lives, who are having fun. They're working on stuff they're excited about. They have healthy social lives and they have hobbies and they're well-rounded entire people in addition to being successful in their careers by whatever measure of success they choose. Um, and so Web Lunch is a show where I'm trying to find people who are that way. They are successful, they're happy, they're excited about things, they are not all about the hustle and grind, they are about being whole people. And I want to talk to them about how they built that philosophy because to me, the way we build our philosophy of work and the way we relate our philosophy of work to our general approach to life, that's a that's like a profoundly interesting and difficult thing because it has to necessarily acknowledge how messy these relationships are and the fact that you can't write an algorithm that solves human happiness. You can't turn relationships into a formula. They are all this constant process of small adjustments and negotiations and compromises that have to be made and that have to change over time. Like what works for you in your early 20s probably won't work for you in your late 30s. It's going to be different and that's good. That means you're growing as a person, right? Like situations should change, needs should evolve. And that to me is deeply interesting to see how people are navigating those situations and how they're growing as people and how they've turned this thing that for some becomes this sort of like pit of ambition where they just have to go and grind as hard as they can to see the number go up. What if you don't do that? Like, can you be successful and also like yourself and have healthy relationships and I don't know, maybe eat vegetables once in a while? Like, I think there's a way to be a very happy, well-rounded, and still wildly successful person. Um, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a reframing of what work is for and what healthy work looks like. And so that's what Web Lunch is. So the full conversations are going to be on Code TV as supporter only content. The clips will be released as free public content. We'll promote them across social media and all the different places. We got a few episodes in the can. I'm very, very, very excited about it. We've got a few more coming. We worked with AppRight. If you know AppRight, they sponsored a couple episodes. I'm really pumped about that. One of them is this person named Laura Dury, who works at AppRight and is a former professional goalie in worked let's see, what was it, in the Dutch, I can't remember which league, like one of the Dutch professional soccer leagues. Laura was a goalie and a professional athlete and then got injured and so her athletic career ended early and she had to transition into professional, like into a new career. Like what do you do after you have what presumably is everybody's dream job, which is to be a pro athlete, right? um Such a fascinating conversation. Like I cannot wait to drop that one. I had a talk with the COO of GitHub, another really, really good conversation that I can't wait to share. Had a good talk with Daniel Rowe, one of the maintainers of Nuxt. And we've got a lot of good conversations that are all going to start coming out soon. I'm honestly like I'm sitting on a bunch of clips now, and I have one more that I'm waiting for before I do the launch, and then we're gonna just kind of take Web Lunch back out into the world and see how things go. Um, but yeah, so very, very, very um, good stuff coming. What if you want to become an empty shell who's only after money? I mean, that's up to you. Like you can do whatever you want. I just don't. It's not for me. Um, yeah, making success work with real lives, like very, very much the thing that I care about. Um, but yeah, let's see what else we got. What else we got? conversation you're having with your co-founder right now? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of oh, she's not there. I thought I just looked like the other day and she was still there. But anyways, um, yeah, that conversation is awesome and was like a really really inspiring one. Also, if you want to get a look inside of my living room, that is where we filmed that one, so you can see what my house looks like. um, you feel like you've plateaued, like in your career, or like in general? Because I feel like those are two different things. Like I've had it's been weird in my life because I wrote a blog post about this like forever ago called "What are you optimizing for?" and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot and something that I try to revisit frequently. Where I feel like at any given moment there's a lot of stuff you could be doing. Like we could be working on our fitness goals. We could be working on becoming a better cook or strengthening our relationships or checking off some of the boxes from our travel goals or building our career, trying to get that next promotion, trying to get more money, trying to switch careers. Like, who knows? There's a million things that we could be doing. All of them would benefit us in different ways. And when we are, I've talked to a lot of folks who they sort of look at that and they go, well, that's just too much stuff. I can't do it all. And it ties into that sort of like we're bad at multitasking. And you can't, I don't think you can grow like multiple things at the same time effectively. I I have this operating theory that everybody who looks like they're doing a ton is doing it because they incrementally made a bunch of activity unconscious. And so what I mean by that is like think about how many things that you do simultaneously that don't even enter your mind when you're when you're moving around, when you're eating, when you're drinking, when you're talking, you're hearing and understanding language, you're speaking a language, you're eating things, there's coordination stuff, there's muscle control, your balance, your all of this stuff is stuff that you couldn't do when you were born, right? You kind of were born as a potato, and over the course of years you develop the ability to roll and crawl and walk and eat without smearing the food all over your face and get fine motor control over your fingers so that you could do whatever thing, use silverware. You learned language, you learned how to speak, you learned grammar, maybe you learned a second language if you're not American. And you have all of these things are things that you had to, like, it was a lot of effort to do those things, but today most likely it's not anymore, right? Like me standing here right now, I'm not thinking about my balance. I'm not putting any effort into not falling over. It's an unconscious skill at this point. And similarly, when I am speaking, I'm not thinking about English as a language. I'm thinking about the thought that I want to communicate, and I have vocabulary that's just kind of in my head, and it's unconsciously able to be summoned. And then similarly, like when I'm working, when I write JavaScript, I don't have to think very hard about JavaScript because I've been writing it for so long that it flows through me the same way that English flows through me. It's just a language I know. So I'm communicating intent. I'm not thinking about the grammar and syntax anymore. I think that is a thing that we don't value enough, is that anything can become unconscious over time. And so I'll give you some examples of things that I do that people have kind of been like, how do you get so much done? For example, like I have to sell projects to sponsors. I have to find sponsors and talk to them about projects. I have to put together budgets, have to put together proposals. We are writing shows. We're working with different networks to find the crew. We're trying to cast. We're coordinating travel. We're working out deals with like local hotels for discounted stays. We're working out sponsorship deals with companies like BenQ to get monitors so that we can, lower the overall budget. All of this kind of stuff is stuff that is individually extremely hard, right? Like figuring out how to sell a project where you're asking for 5 or 6 figure sums is not a thing that you just do. It's not a thing that I was able to do for a really long time. And I practiced it because I had an agency and I didn't have a choice. I had to, in order to eat, learn how to sell projects, right? And the budgeting thing is something that 2 years ago I was very bad at. If you asked me how to write a budget, I would maybe get a notepad and I would take some notes and I'd go, that looks about right. And then I would inevitably be very wrong. I would have missed something entirely. And, the budget would be razor thin margins, or I would pay a little bit to do the project because I didn't consider some of the contingencies. And now I've over time, I've learned enough that now I just have a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet has more or less controlled for all the things that I do. And I duplicate that spreadsheet. I fill it out with the variables for the current project, and I get a budget that I am very confident is accurate or accurate enough. That is a thing that I do unconsciously now, right? It's not, if you ask me to make a budget, it's not like I have to go, how do you make a budget? Like, I know how to make a budget. I duplicate my spreadsheet and I fill in some numbers, right? That's not stuff that I could have done on its own. And while I was learning that, I didn't have the bandwidth to also learn something else. And when I was learning how to operate my camera, I didn't have the bandwidth to learn how to operate a production company. So I didn't. I did it in my spare time, right? And I think that a lot of times we look at these journeys as holy crap, you can do so much. I must be a failure because I can't do all of that right now. And the thing that's challenging, and I think the thing that breaks a lot of people down, is that they're comparing their ability to improve from today to tomorrow to somebody else's improvements over a decade or more. If you do a thing and you pick one skill and you improve that skill until it doesn't feel hard anymore, which is when it starts to become unconscious, then you can now shift what you're optimizing for. So first thing, optimize for getting better at writing videos, because you can do that with no budget, without selling all those whatever things. Then you make good videos. Once you can do that, people start to notice that you can do good videos. So now maybe you optimize for selling sponsorships, because that will allow you to make more videos, and maybe you can shift toward putting more of your time into making those videos. And I'm kind of using a loose concept of how I did all this stuff. And of course, we're skipping over all the parts where I learned to code and got a job and all the other things that I did before I decided to do video. But at each one of these points, this is 2018 was when I picked up a camera. And from 2018 to 2022, I was slowly building these skills that allowed me to make good video. I had better equipment. I knew how to operate the equipment. I knew how to edit. I knew how to sell sponsorships. I knew how to structure a show. I understood a little bit more about format. I was building my network the whole time because I was bringing guests on to learn with Jason. I was, working in Netlify, so I was expanding my network that way. And all of those things led to, suddenly I could optimize for, what if I did this full time? And all of the production stuff that I was doing was now more or less unconscious, because I had enough practice that I didn't have to dedicate huge amounts of mental overhead to making that stuff happen. I had all my mental overhead, more or less, to focus on making this business work. And so then I optimized for budgeting, for sales, for, expanding production. And each one of those things was a thing that I've just sort of been stacking a brick until it feels like it's kind of under control. And when it feels like it's under control, I don't have to think about it as much. Okay, we did that. It works. Let's do it that way again. And then if it starts to feel bad, I can say, okay, after this production, what I'm going to focus on is fixing this process and finding out what's wrong with it. But I'm always usually only focused on one or two things wholeheartedly. And then there's a bunch of stuff that's simmering in the background, and a bunch of stuff that just operates on memory. I have the repetitive skill to shoot off a budget, to respond to an email, to take a sales call, to record a short form video, whatever it is. I can do that stuff without it needing to dominate my entire headspace. If you asked me to do this exact same thing, but in a completely different career, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pick up 7 or 8 new things and do them all at once. I don't think we're capable, or I'm not capable, and I suspect that others aren't capable either, of optimizing for multiple things at the same time. I think we have to look at the list of goals and sort of sequence them in which of these is the thing that gives me momentum and like is also possible now, right? Because like I couldn't optimize for selling projects if I didn't know how to make the project. So I got to learn how to make the projects before I can make that optimization. So kind of thinking about the sequencing and then just realizing that like you stack these bricks one by one. I think Alex Hillman and Amy Hoy talk about it like they call it stacking the bricks. I actually don't know if that's what it's about, but it's what it is. It's what it means in my head. But I think like that's sort of the goal is to start building these foundational skills, but recognize that you have to do the thing and get good enough at it that it's not taking a lot of mental overhead so that you can then give all of that mental energy to the next thing. Because if you're just splitting your mental energy among a million things, I don't think you get to like be good at them. You can juggle them, but it's very frazzling. It's very like demotivating, and ultimately I think it burns you out. So yeah, I think that's a whole thing. Let's see. Job is separate. Speaking about professional work, just don't get the engagement in the work that I see others getting for theirs. I think that is very true. Comparison is the thief of joy. Absolutely. I mean, this is a really good question. Like, I think a big challenge is like if you're doing a thing, if you really love it and nobody else gets it, one, do you care? Right? Like, I think that's a primary question is does it matter if anybody else cares? Because if the point is that you're doing a thing you enjoy, great. It sounds like you do care. And so if people aren't feeling the value, then what is the value, right? So I had this problem. I've had this problem a few times, and like when I was first trying to Learn with Jason out the door, I structured it a handful of different ways, and I felt like they weren't connecting. And like what I wanted was, to me, the really rewarding thing was this idea of like more than one person building a project, and the sort of whole is greater than the sum of its parts outcome of like, what if you get two people in a room and they work on a cool thing together? But the way it was being presented was not communicating that to other people. And when I looked at it, it was sort of being like, I didn't do this on purpose, but just because this was the way I'd always seen this stuff done, I was presenting the content as I will teach somebody else, or I am in charge and somebody is going to join me while I do a thing. And so it was very much like the Jason show. And it wasn't connecting with people in the way that I wanted it to. They weren't seeing, like, they didn't understand the vision that I had for it. It didn't feel like it was resonating. So then I kind of had to look at it, and I was like, well, okay, well, do I care if people, because like the motivation for me was that I wanted to do these things. I wanted to collaborate with other people, and I wanted to build stuff. But it did matter, because if people don't watch it, then why would anybody bother coming on my show? And like, am I really going to be motivated to make a thing if I know that every time I make one, I'm just throwing it in a hole? Like, if that's the case, I should just do Zoom calls and not record them, and it's fine. It's just me and a friend pair programming. And that's fine. That could have been the way that it went. But I realized, like, I did care, and I did want people to pay attention. And so I started thinking about like, why don't they understand what it is that I'm trying to do? Because I feel like people value this. I just don't think they're seeing why, like, the way I'm doing this, something about it's not connecting. And so then it became a challenge of positioning. Like, what is it that we're doing? And thinking about like Learn with Jason, for example, I felt like the problem was that I was positioned as the expert and everybody else was coming in as like asking for help, or somehow as like, I'm gifting you with my time, right? Like, you get to be a guest on my show. So I flipped it, and Learn with Jason became, I don't know shit. I'm bringing an expert on, and we're going to learn this experts thing. And the way that it's going to work is they're going to teach me how to do their thing. And instantly, for me, the whole value prop became very clear. Like, the goal here is to learn something from smart people, but it's also like it's about being vulnerable and like being willing to not know things. And that was I started to realize kind of what I cared about in the show is I like this idea of going in and well, I don't really know how this works, but I bet we can figure it out. And if I've got an expert guide, I know we can. Um, and also showing that like you do make mistakes and things are going to go wrong, but you can recover from them. And you, like, I don't want to see a polished demo. I don't want to see the edited version. I want to see where things actually go wrong. I want to see the true 0 to 1. And by me going in as a beginner and the expert guiding me, but not being able to touch the controls, it sort of sets up like by necessity that environment. And once that was set up, that shift communicated, I think, better what was going on with the show in a way that caused it to grow much more rapidly than it was before I positioned it that way. And so I think like understanding what is the actual value of the thing and being able to articulate like what does it mean to me and what do I want it to mean to other people, and then this is the hard part, either doing like user research if you can afford it or manage it, or just like looking at responses, trying to understand like if I can take all of my context out of it and I look at this as just a poster, like it's something that comes across my feed, what does it mean? What do I see here? Do I see the value that I think somebody would get out of this? And I am historically very bad at this. Like if you've watched this show more than once, you've probably heard me talk about how bad I am at like YouTube thumbnails and stuff. And so I don't really have any advice on how to fix it. I just know that the few times that I've gotten it right, like Web Dev Challenge, for example, I think is it's pretty clear what the value of that is, and people get it and they watch the show. Leet Heat, I think I got it wrong. I think Leet Heat is so much fun, and I just don't feel like people understood from looking at the title and thumbnail or even the show description. I don't think people really got what it was, and I still don't really know how to communicate that. And so it remains a mystery, right? I'm hoping I get a chance to do a season 2. I've got some ideas, but I don't know. We'll see, right? And so, you know, I think over time I'm getting better at it, but it's still not something that I feel like I'm great at. But I do think that if you are doing something that you feel is important and people aren't getting it, usually I have found that to mean that a lot of the experts that I talk to are really, really close to the stuff they know, and they aren't able to like take themselves out of it enough to just talk about like the core value. They always get lost in the nuance, which kind of loses people, or they're focused on like this very hyper specific benefit that is sort of presuming a lot of knowledge or presuming a level of care that doesn't exist. And so trying to figure out like, why would somebody watch this, or why would somebody read this, or why would somebody hire me to do this, and taking it down to the level of like, what if they don't care? You know what I mean? Like, what if nobody they don't care who I am, they don't care about the given tech, why would they watch this, right? And hopefully the idea is because it's fun and they'll kind of keep a pulse on what's going on, and they'll see what other people are capable of. And those are 3 interesting things. It doesn't matter who is hosting it or who is producing it. It just matters that those things are communicated and true. And I think that's why Web Dev Challenge works. And then we just got to figure out, you know, can that keep going? So yeah, I think that's the thing. Will I ever call Josh to my shows? Yes, absolutely. I love Josh. So the big challenge I have is that Josh is based in Canada. And I was talking about this earlier, like I'm not bringing people from out of the US into the US right now. So I'm desperately trying to get my European tour of Web Dev Challenge going. And I've tried to figure out a couple times, like how could we do a Toronto based episode? Because Josh is in that general vicinity. So is like Wes Boss, and a few other folks that I want to work with. So the short answer is yes, I've talked with Josh. He and I both want to make it work, but it's going to have to be international. So it's just a kind of a limitation of the uh, funding. I think this is the other thing too, talking about like value is recognizing that like sometimes you're just building the thing because like building the thing teaches you something that'll get you to the next thing. I've got a ton of projects in my project graveyard that I maybe didn't even ship, but like I learned a core skill that translated into the next project. And I think that was what they were for. Um, Show pitch. Web Dev Bootcamp, the reality show. Crew follows a class of new developers in learning a bootcamp setting, new developers learning in a bootcamp setting, and talking about their challenges with learning. So I love the idea. The big issue with documentary style stuff is you either need to be willing to like make it your whole life for a long time. Because if you think about a boot camp is 6 weeks minimum. And then after that 6 weeks, you would want some kind of a payoff, which would be people getting jobs. And in this market, that probably means months. So now we're looking at probably like 3 to 6 months of filming. And unless all of those people were in Portland, it creates a travel burden. And the sponsor would need to like why would somebody sponsor that? So the short answer is I love that idea from the standpoint of like, what does supporter only content work like once we hit a certain like threshold of supporter revenue. But I think the challenge would be figuring out how to get that to work with a sponsor, unless the sponsor was, for example, a boot camp. What do the people get from the things I make? Yeah, I think this is maybe the I don't think you're alone in this. And honestly, my feedback to just about every developer out there has consistently been figure out how to communicate what you care about in other people's language. Because like the example I always use is tech debt. Like companies will say, you know, like you never get tech debt prioritized. And I disagree with that. I used to get tech debt prioritized all the time because the way I would frame it is as like a velocity boost. If you know sales wants new features to ship, well, I can give you a lot more features if we are able to clear some of the roadblocks that prevent us from shipping fast. And you know, if we want to ship these things by Q3, then the way that we're going to get there is by making sure that we're not losing 20% efficiency on every feature because of these like common stumbling blocks from back in the day. Suddenly sales is fully on board. Like, oh, 20% velocity? Yeah, let's do it. So a lot of time what I've noticed is that people want to believe that people will care about things on their terms. And engineers are really, really guilty of this. It's one of the big complaints I have about like engineer-led startups too, is that they think like engineers and they dismiss anything that's not engineering as like less important, and then wonder why people are frustrated or don't stick around or why the company's not functioning. And it's because, you know, whenever you have a conversation about, say, research, they will sort of say, but research just slows us down. It's like, I promise you it doesn't. Or like sales, like sales guys just want us to like ship crap as fast as they can so they can sell stuff. Like, no, they're trying to make money so that the company can continue to function. Product too. They're not giving you deadlines because they hate you. They're giving you deadlines because predictability allows a company to function. And if there are deadlines that get met, then marketing can make plans, which means that people will buy the thing, which means you continue to have a job. Like all of these systems are connected, right? And people can be bad at their jobs, but the jobs themselves aren't inherently bad or less valuable. The whole ecosystem needs to function. And if you can talk about each of those ecosystems and argue for them, for what they are and what they do, and learn the language that they use to talk about what they care about, then you can immediately start to see the engineering work I do feeds marketing in this way, feeds sales in this way, feeds product, feeds the leadership class. All of these like company components all have motivations that are directly tied to what we can output in engineering. Now, if we talk about it as like tech debt or interesting technical problems or the, I don't know, the idempotency of something, I can't even say that word. Why would they care? They don't care at all, right? But if I can say something like, I don't know, building this is going to increase our shipping velocity. Building this is a differentiator that will give us the ability to ship XYZ features that other companies haven't been able to crack, whatever. Like those suddenly like the rest of the company is pulling for you to get to do the thing that you want to do. And a lot of times, if you dress up tech debt in a value prop, you can get it through easy. Right? But you can't say we need to stop shipping so that we can fix problems. No one will ever let you do that. You say we're going to improve the speed of shipping, by doing this thing, and it's shocking to me how hard it is to get people to talk that way because they feel like it's beneath them. They shouldn't have to justify. Like it's obviously correct. It's technically correct. Why should I have to explain it in a different way? And that really bums me out because I feel like a lot of people get in their own way. The great web dev race, hell yeah. Typeset a print book with CSS, that's dope. Updating this framework will help. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, but that's like the evil way of doing it because that's like using Sure, fine. Yeah. You know what? If you got to get it done, you got to get it done. Okay. So we talked about a lot. I got a couple things that I wanted to fix today. So I have this project over here. So let me share this. And then let's get into this view here that looks a little bit better. That's kind of hard to read, isn't it? Let me hide how do I hide this? There, that makes it a little bit better. And then I'll just move this out of the way so that it's easy to read the comments. How about that? Okay, so what I want to do is let's talk a little bit about what this is while I make a banner to explain what we're doing. Let's do. We're going to update Notion as a CMS for Astro. And so what I want to do is this is my wife's blog that she wants to use Notion as a CMS for. She's tried a bunch of different things, like she's tried doing Markdown. She's fine with Markdown. Like she coded her own site. But like Markdown and the Git workflow is just enough friction that she doesn't write. And other CMSs like Sanity and stuff, or again, they're just like just enough friction. But she works in research and like lives in Notion. So Notion is sort of where she spends a lot of her time. It's very much her sort of like native app when she's working during the day. And so she wants to operate her site as a basically a Notion database. So she's got this thing here, and I wrote the CMS. So I built this little like plugin thing here that that pulls in Notion as a CMS. And I don't know why that showed as the whole tree. Didn't need to, but is what it is. So this is also very small. Let's make that maybe just a little bit. Nope, a little bit bigger. So so this project here is kind of a proof of concept, and then we moved this over into Marissa's site, which is here. And so you can see her site. It's all open source if you want to see it. Oh, you saw that Eat a Doink sticker makes me so happy. Like, it's so good. We also have the whole video in here. I love this. This is so good. You should all go buy a sticker because this is just a sense of joy for me. And if you haven't seen the skit that we did, you really should check that out. We also have this this design by Stephen Shaw is being pre-ordered for the next week. Now would be a really good time to get one of those. We fixed international shipping, so it's not egregiously expensive anymore. I think it was $15 to ship it to London. So get on it, make it happen. This is a cool design. It's kind of deceptively tricky. It's actually 6 different screens to make it work. So it's got a lot going on. It's cool. It's cool. It's very cool. And Steven designed it, which is awesome. Steven is a friend of the show. He's been on one of the keyframers. Also works at CodePen. Like just good people. We have we've been working with a company called Micromerch, and Micromerch is based in Ohio, I think. Where are they? Here they are. And so they're cool. I like them. I think like Syntax uses them, which is how I got hooked up with them. Yeah, this is Gary. Gary helps. So anyways, this is, if you want to check that out, you can go find Micromerch there. But okay, so let's get back to this thing. So we've got Marissa's site is set up now as to run Notion. And the way that we had to do that was we took the page and let's see. So it's this garden page here. So let's just kind of go over the high level, and then we're going to figure out how I broke this, because something is broken, and that's what I want to debug today. So we're pulling in a collection. We have the collection of the blog itself, and then we have the Notion blog. So we'll go look at how both of those work. But you can see here that I'm effectively just combining those into one set, because she has a bunch of stuff that she wrote in Markdown, and it just didn't feel reasonable to like port all of that into Notion. So just, leave that as archival, and then new stuff comes in from Notion. And if she does get the urge to write something in Markdown, she's got that option still. So we pull them in, we sort them by date so that they are a single collection of posts. And then we are looping through here. We've got these labels, so you can filter on her site. Let's actually pull up the site so we can see this. So when you go to her blog, also you want to see something cool. So she coded this shader. It's like the most subtle shader, but it's kind of dope. Watch it slowly shift over time. Oh, there it goes. Now it's orange. Anyways, she got stoked about that and built the shader. So what we've got is we've got the ability to filter the posts by the type. So you can filter by writing, by talks, podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can go and also do topics. So nature stuff, design stuff, and so on. So she just kind of wanted a place where she could stick everything that she's working on. And things like this are how we're making this stuff work. So what I need to figure out is why things are breaking. And so if we go look at, did I get off the Notion site? Damn. Here. Oh, I opened it in the wrong window is why. But so we've got here, and then I think we've got this nature and art somewhere. No, we don't. Okay. Did this one get? I don't know what's happening. I don't know if she's been using this. So let's figure this out. This is the one that we want to get live. So it's set as published, and the way that works in the code is if we go back into the source and we go into the loaders, we have this Notion loader, and we're getting the Notion client. We have the loader type from Astro. We pull in Zod, which is bundled with Astro content. Then we have a Cloudinary utility, which I use to, I think this might just be the Cloudinary client, actually. And then this render thing is turning Notion blocks, which are a kind of a data structure, into HTML. And then we have the topics and types from her content config. So we then have a Notion rich text, which is this, there's a lot going on here, but we've got the like different types. Basically, you get in Notion, you get what type of thing it is. And so this is a text. We're using discriminated union to discriminate on the type so that we can say that this one is a text. Then we have inside the text, you've got the content, whether or not it's linked. You've got annotations, so whether or not it's bold, italic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can set, you get the plain text, and then you can get the link if it exists. Then you have a file, which is a similar kind of thing. So it's type file. It has the URL of the file. You get the properties. So this is like, I think this one might be how we're doing. Oh, right. This is how we did the actual properties for the pages themselves. So like when you set properties up here, I'm on the, this is not the one that I should have open, come to think of it. But so we've got the, you know, the publish date slug, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are all different types of things. So like this one is a select. This one is a file, and the rest of these are text, or like this one is a select. So what we're doing in the code here is we are just setting up a type for that. And then we've got the Notion page. So the Notion page is using like the Notion properties, and it's using the Notion result, which then has a Notion page and Notion properties. This is like for each of the things, we're making sure that they exist and that they come back as an empty string if they're empty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of like parsing out the pieces we need. And then all the way down here. Okay, so here's where something interesting happens. With files, we aren't able to use the Notion CDN link. It like doesn't work. And so then you grab the files wherever they are, and you then upload these to Cloudinary. So we've got a Cloudinary account for Marissa. And by uploading them to Cloudinary, we both get to optimize the image, so I don't have to ask her to like resize images or do anything that would be a pain in the butt. Otherwise, you just get to throw the whole thing up on Cloudinary, and then we can optimize it with the URL. We keep all this stuff so that it's able to do like, it's all fine. Everything's good. Then we have the Cloudinary URL, which is the upload public ID, and we generate out the image at the right size. So 16:9, we crop it, we focus on faces so that if like it's a weird crop, we don't cut somebody off at their nose. We would like move the photo down so it focuses on their faces, update the quality and format so that it's like optimized. So it'll sound like a WebP at 60% quality or something, which is visually almost indistinguishable, but saves a bunch of time. So then all of that gets bundled up into this loader. And so this is an Astro thing where we have our integration token, the data source ID, the filter, and the sorts. The filter is how we say, hey, Notion, these are the things we want. Sorts are how we sort them. And then down here, we've got our schema, which sends in, this is like all the stuff that's going to go into Astro. So the title, the slug, when it was published, what type of post it is, the topics that it's related to, the image that we uploaded, and then a description of the post, which is used for SEO. And then when we load stuff, we are getting that Notion result. So we actually hit the Notion API. We load all of the pages according to the filter and sorts. We, let's see, we have a store, so we clear that. We then go in and we do a parallelize promises, waiting for each of the pages to grab out the different properties, and then we parse those Notion properties to get out the actual data that we want. And then we've got the paginated API, which is a whole thing to get like all the stuff. So the parse data then is going to get us back the like this is what is the data? I'm trying to remember what the store is used for actually. Oh, right. This is the content collection thing. So for each one of these, we are uploading basically our body, our data, the rendered stuff, and then a digest that is the whether or not the data is different from last time, which is, I believe, used for caching. And so all of that is clear the store ahead of time so that we get it fresh. Yeah, okay. I'm with it. I'm here. So all of that, when we go into the content config, we're able to load our Notion loader, and we specify the types and topics that we want to load. We go into the blog schema is the markdown stuff. And then the Notion blog, we use our Notion loader. We filter by published stuff, and then we sort by the published data sending. We feed in, this is all duplicate, which we probably could have pulled out of, probably could have centralized somewhere in some types. And then, so we've got our blog, which is just loading markdown files. And we've got our Notion stuff. We then export both of those as collections. Okay, so everybody with me? Maybe. Beard is on point. Do I go to a barber? Yes, I do. Every 3-ish weeks, I go to a barber. And I also do so I have them kind of fade the sides, because otherwise what happens is it grows kind of out and gets round. So they take some of the bush out here, they keep it off my lips so that I don't get my beard in my mouth, which sucks. And then I have them like just kind of like shape under here so that it doesn't get too far down my neck. And then I also use I use a good face wash to make sure that I get the oils out. And then I use it's called a beard balm. So it's kind of it's almost like a wax, but it's got oil in it. So you take the oil out in the shower, and then you use the oil or the balm to like put the oil back in so that your skin doesn't dry out. It's a lot, but I don't have any hair on my head, so I just take care of the beard on the bottom of my head. So let's talk about how all this is going to work in the site. So I've got the site loaded up over here. Let's make this a little bigger. And so here's where I'm at right now. We're in. Is this still loaded? Okay, so we're on the site. We are loaded. And what we're getting is an error, failed to fetch image not found. And so what I've been trying to do is to debug this, I just console log the image, thinking clearly it's one of these images. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because like this is an image, and I would expect that this would have failed there. So going back to the garden, thing that I need to figure out is like, where exactly is this happening? So let's go down here to the preview grid. And what I want to do is I'm going to just see if it is, in fact, this image at all. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take one of these that I know works. Let's go up to a copy URL. Let's make sure this is a real one. Yeah. Okay, so that image works. So then let's take this image and let's use that instead. And so now what I should see is that every image, it's just gonna, I guess. Oh, I did that wrong. It's source and alt. So we're going to make that a source. And then we need the alt, and the alt is going to be clouds. Okay. So then this theoretically should get us past this error, and it does. Okay. So now we've got an interesting problem, which is why is my error check not working? So if I put this back in, it's running through, failed to fetch image, not found. So one of my images is not, in fact, an image. And so what I need to figure out is why. Because it's failing inside here. And it's failing because Unpick does some stuff to like grab these and turn them into previews and so on and so forth. But it should be checking that the image exists and then checking if the source exists and go into a fallback otherwise. So somehow an invalid source is getting set. I don't know how. So let's dig into this a little bit and see if we can figure out what it is. So I'm going to what? What am I going to do? Why don't we just set up a little bit of a debugging loop here? And we're going to say if image source, then I want to console.log image source. Get rid of this one. Because what I'm looking for is I don't care about the ones that are undefined because those should be falling back here appropriately. So what I'm looking for is why the heck these ones are failing. And so what I should see in here is something that isn't an image. Could it be that one? Could it be that one? Wait. So that's when I saved. What I don't like is that it's not like immediately failing. It seems to be going through the full list and then failing on something else, which is a bit of a bummer. I also don't like it's not. None of these looks like they wouldn't work. Like these are all valid images. Oh, there we go. Annie Spratt. Okay. So this is, in fact, the image that was broken, but how? Isn't this one gone? Okay, I'm trying. Let's see. Try and I guess I should stop the server before I start deleting the files it needs to operate. Okay, so let's delete that. We're going to delete the Astro stuff. Okay, so that should clear any caches because now what I'm worried about is that because that image was the one that was loaded here, and that image should not exist anymore, which has me wondering if it got cached. So let's start this again. get you to end this. Okay, now it's done. Okay, so we're going to npm run dev. Right, this is, yeah, it's npm. Thinking error. Oh, okay, hold on. Things are happening. Error parsing notion property. Content data does not match. Okay. Okay. So I think then this is, that's getting us closer. And I think what that means is that the loader, which lives where? Loader, is not allowing the file type to be optional or to be empty. So let's go look at the type file. Let's try this again. Files. Oh, files is an array. Why? Wait, that's not even it. Type files. Files is an array. Notion file. Discriminated union. Optional. You can be optional, I think. No. Couldn't you? Does that work? Because I feel like, so I feel like what we're after here. What am I doing? There we go. Error notion loader, content entry does not match schema. But I want, what am I doing wrong? Why? Zod array allow empty. Don't we just have? Zod. Array. Okay. But what if I want to allow my array to be empty? Yeah, this is weird. Okay. Customizing, formatting. Let's see. No, it's in here. Optionals. Nullables. Nullish, unknown. See, this is. If anybody knows this, but if you do know this, or if you have ideas of what I'm doing wrong, hit me. Do they have just like a quick, like a playground or something, so that I can just try stuff really fast? Ecosystem migration guide, we don't have. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna just. This should allow, though, empty. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Hold on. Type ID files. Type ID files. So that should be allowed. Type of files. ID is set. The ID is a string. This should be an array. Files is an array of Notion files. So Zod, you should not be doing this to me. C dot. Oh, that's not it. What is it? And so basically what I want is for this to just be like anything. And so this is going to be okay, and then this is going to be an array of test object. And then what I want to do is console log test dot parse an array. And that looks like it's going to work. Just wrapping this in a way that's going to make my life a little bit less confusing here. And then I'm going to stop, restart. I should get nothing. Nothing at all. Let's, whoa there, buddy. And now suddenly we're okay. What on earth? Collection Notion blog does not exist or it is empty. Okay, that's kind of fine. So if that's the case, then what should happen here is if I come up here and I re-upload the this image, which I did download. Yes. Big old image, but it's a JPEG. So I upload this. There it is. It's there. We got the image in there. I click this build button, which is a Notion way of allowing you to kick off a webhook. So then we've got Marissa's site. It is building. We fix that right now too. But we didn't change any code is the confusing part here. It was like it got stuck in some kind of weird caching thing. Balls. And I reformatted all of the CSS. Well, just gonna, what on earth? That was weird. Okay, so that doesn't matter. You're failing again because it says image not found, which was in fact a problem. So let's see if it's just a cache. That's going to be frustrating if it's just a cache issue. But I am confused as to why that would have worked at all. Loaded one page from Notion. Nothing is broken. Coming back out here, looking at Marissa's blog. We should get a new blog post. Son of a bitch. So what is going on? Okay, so it should be the garden talk, which I think is the first one because it would be the most recent one. Garden thoughts. And that brings up this one. Did we get into some kind of weird... Okay, we're going to try something. Have a hunch. Have a hunch. I have a hunch that there's a naming collision and like something is going wrong there. And I don't know what it is. But I'm wondering now. Delete. Add. Renamed. Okay, so that's been renamed. We're going to dump this. One page loaded from Notion. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, so then let's look at that image again. This isn't fun. I don't like debugging like this. Come on. Sheesh. Got a lot of posts on here. Garden thoughts. Splash new dot auto. So is this one busted too? So what the heck is going on? Oh, wait. Okay, give me a quick second while I figure out if I gotta go off screen here because I'm worried now that I have my own environment variables in here. No, that's Marissa's cloud name. Okay. So let me bring this back up. So what, yeah, I just checked my environment to make sure that I didn't have like testing credentials in there. So it would be trying to pull from her cloud, but using mine to upload, but that's not the case. So let's look at Cloudinary utility. Brings back into the loader where it does an image upload. Should I allow override? Like, also, am I getting an error here and it's just not showing up for some reason? Let's test that. Let's see what comes out. Let me go dump this console log here because that's very noisy. Now we have a different area to debug. Okay, so you here, that's the thing. And so if I take this, actually, did they just give me a URL? They do. So if they just give me this URL here, secure URL, and I come out here and I try to load this, it does work. Okay, so that one is showing up just fine. Existing true, so it's saying that it didn't override it. Okay, fine. So then let's go back in here and let's look at what's happening with this image. Image, sharing image here. Then we should get our image source. So let's stop it and see what happens there. Okay, so here's our image, and this is where I think things are breaking. Because it's like making it a dot auto somehow. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Oh my God. Because if I load this, it doesn't work. And oh my God, I think I know what I did. I think this is the problem. I think I was telling it to use the, what is the button? Oh. I was telling it to use auto as the dang file extension. And it's already hitting the Q auto, but it's not hitting F auto. So I need to figure out how to make that work. But that's the problem. Like that is what was wrong, which is very frustrating. But now I want to figure out why I want transformation options, image transformation options. Format is image format, but I do want auto to be supported. I'm confused why it's not, but that's what I did. Is I basically told it to use .auto, which should have jumped out maybe more than it did. Okay, so let's look at this again. Transformation options, image transformation options, fetch format. No, I do really feel though, like I know there's a way to do the F auto thing here. So there's gravity. Video format is auto tagging, auto chaptering, auto transcription. Gravity is auto. Yeah, that makes sense. Angle, image effect, video format, auto tagging. Just kind of like generally confused by why that wouldn't. Yeah, there's no auto in here. That almost feels like a bug. Because I should be able to like F auto. I don't know why that's not working. Okay. So maybe what we'll do instead. Doesn't feel right either. Okay. Maybe we just live with it. Like maybe it doesn't matter. Or you can always hit it with a hammer and say, hey, replace Q auto with Q auto F auto. That'll fix it. That's gross. That's gross that I'm doing that, but I don't care because I want it to be fixed. And so we're going to fix it. And now if we look, Q auto, F auto, and if we go and look in the browser here, what we should get is if we look in the network tab, here is our image, and it is being delivered as where is it? Should be in here somewhere. Cache control. Why doesn't it have a content type? That's a WebP, but it should still have the content type. I don't like it. Something's weird. Whatever. It's fine. And like the good news is that the size is small. So what if I disable the cache, clear this cache, reload it again? Okay, so that's 297 kilobytes. And now it came in as a, oh, it was because it was cached. The 304 doesn't, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. But so the content type is a WebP, whereas if I take this out, or actually, I don't even need to do that. I can, that all stays the same. But then up here, what I can do is I can take that fauto out. And then up here, we're going to get, it's an image JPEG, but it looked like it was smaller. 204. 296, that's not ideal. Is this an ordering thing? This is going to be really silly if that's the case. No, it's literally bigger. It's bigger when you send it as a WebP. That doesn't make any sense. What the hell is happening? I don't care. I'm over it. We're just going to leave it alone. We're going to let that be its own thing. And now if we come back out here and we reload this dang page, that is all fine, but we're missing. What? Why didn't that work? Notion blog does not exist or is empty. This 100% exists. And you will respect it. One page loaded. There. You. Here. Reload. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So we're gonna. This is fine. This is fine. Why did that not work though? This one we need to. Okay, so the problem was this format auto. That is fine. And then this is just a chore formatting. Sync that up. Back out to Netlify. Here we go. This one's going to work. Yeah, I think the params were definitely the issue. But what a frustrating way to have that go wrong. Also, just sheesh, that took like an hour and a half. That was a. I thought that was going to be such a fast fix. And I mean, it was a fast fix, but like the debug trail that we went down on that was silly. Okay, so that worked. And so now we go over here. We go to Marissa's site. We go to the garden. We get garden thoughts. All right. Good. Good. Everything is fine. Okay. So that is I had other stuff I wanted to do today as well. I've been looking at I'm thinking about codetv.dev. I've been thinking about like RSS But I'm thinking about RSS and kind of maybe what the successor to it is. So this will be maybe next week what we can dig into. But I started putting together feeds. And so like there's now a blog RSS feed for Code TV. And then there is a each series now has its own feed so that you can like get notified in whatever feed reader. And then I used XSLT to format these. But if you look at the source code of them, there is a lot more information in here about what is going on. Is that right? Actually, now I have questions. So let's go to like feedly.com or something. Do I have a Feedly account? Let's find out. I do. Haha. And then if I want to add a new source, I type this in. It says Web Dev Challenge. I create my new folder. I thought there was more in here. Oh, that sucks. Okay, so here's then. Let's do the blog feed because this one should have the full content of the blog. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it does work because the thing I was worried about is when you go to this blog feed, like the full post is hidden by the XSLT, but it is there in the like in the XML itself. But it is showing up in the feed reader. So you can, if you use a feed reader, you can now get like that's the Web Dev Challenge. If you swap out the Web Dev Challenge in there for like Leet-Heat or for Web-Lunch or whatever, then you can get other series. And then similarly, the blog, which like the Code TV blog is sorely underserved. It's very much like not. It's a thing that I wish I had time for, and I just don't. So maybe that'll be a thing. But then I was also able to get the my personal blog set up, and that one I believe energy / RSS.xml. Is that right? Can't remember what I did. I did it. And so now if I go out here, these are all also running. Oh, this one, it looks like wait, did I keep that one short on purpose? Huh. I thought I made this one have the full details. Feed settings. Did I get this wrong? Hold on. RSS.xml. Oh, no. Oh. I must have like a light dark setting on there that I need to fix. Anyways, the full post is supposed to be in there, but either way, it's like kind of available now. So that's a thing. But anyways, so those are all there. They're doing the CSS or the RSS feed, and I'm excited about that. So if you do want my RSS feed, despite the clear bug that I have in it, how much time do we have? 9 minutes. Can I fix that fast? Let's do it. Okay, so that's done. Let's open my site. Let's go to the XSL feed. We're going to go in here, and I bet I have some kind of like a light dark thing going on. Color scheme light dark. We're just going to force light. I think that'll actually just fix it. My site builds really fast. I think. Wait a minute. Only dark mode. Let's clear it here. That should pull up. Yeah, that'll pull it up here, down. RSS XML. And that forces it. Let me just double check that that did in fact work, because if I changed it to light, I think that would break everything. It does. Okay. So we're just forcing dark mode, which is what we want, because I'm not going to take all the time to fix that. So and also, I was really sure that I was doing this right. Site content. Yeah, I am doing it right. The content is there. And if I turn off the style sheet, and I start the server again. Yeah, look at that. Look at all that content. So why then is that not working? Let's see, I gotta switch teams. Me. Nope. That one. What do you mean you failed? It's like not an error. That actually push, everything's up to date. Okay. Just gonna chalk that one up to a fluke for some reason, because I have no idea what would have caused it otherwise, and that makes me sad. Come on now. So that built, and then if we come back out here, that's fixed, that's good. And then if we come back out here, I really should be able, like, refresh just this post. Boy, I wish they would just let me turn all those features off. I don't know why that's not working. Follow sources. Can I know that's in here. Like, I'm just confused. I feel like it's cached or something. And I don't know how to make it not cache. Yeah, just need to cache bust. So that'll probably update itself here soon, but now the posts are actually showing up, which is good. So if you want to follow my site, it is there. You can do it. And that is all the time we have for today. So yeah. So I guess to state like what I'm hoping happens next, what my intentions are for all of this is I would really like to get this set up in such a way that I can maybe hook it up to like AT Proto or something. Because what I want to figure out is I really like this idea of sort of decentralized publishing, and I like the idea of being able to interact with things socially, but not necessarily requiring that interaction to be centralized through like Instagram or something, right? So if I want to post a short, what I would love is to figure out how that video could be like posted on Code TV, but then because it's stored with the lexicon, and I asked a question about this on Blue Sky that I haven't been able to go back, and I got a lot of responses I haven't been able to go back through. But like if it's posted with the video posts lexicon that's compatible with Blue Sky, could it just go live on Blue Sky? Right? And because like it's not like I don't mind using something like Buffer or whatever, but it would be really nice if you could just say like I have made a blog post and that blog post now shows up on Blue Sky if you follow Blue Sky, or it shows up on Leaflet if you do stuff on Leaflet, or it shows up on I don't know whatever custom AT Proto apps you work on, because they can consume like that type, right? So I think the thing that I don't fully understand all that stuff yet. I've played with AT Proto a tiny bit. There was forever ago we did a proof of concept stream where we like figured out how to programmatically post to Blue Sky, but that was Blue Sky. That's not AT Proto, right? So I want to figure out the underlying stuff like the lexicons, and I know there's been a lot of work in that space, and now there's new things like standard.site and Leaflet and I forget the other one's names, but there's like one for images and one for short form videos, and they're all built on AT Proto. And I just haven't quite figured out, because I was asking about, if my site is a source of truth, they were like, well, do I need a PDS, which is a personal data server? And I was told, no, you can use the Blue Sky one. I was like, okay, but then that feels like I'm just posting on Blue Sky. So I have a lot of questions about how this stuff actually hooks up. Like I think maybe I just need a diagram. But so far I haven't been able to get this stuff to click in my head because it doesn't it like I haven't found, because a lot of the things that people were saying is like, well, just like automate it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to. I know how to automate, but like I thought the point was that you publish once and then people kind of consume it through whatever app view they want. And I don't know if I'm misunderstanding that, or if maybe the way it's being explained is that, and I'm just not understanding. So who knows? There's something going on there. There's more to it. I want to dig in deeper. Maybe we'll get into that next time around. But yeah. Can you set up your blog as the endpoint, like how Ghost or WordPress blog are set up as a federated end or starting point? I mean, this is what I'm asking. I'm making a social media posting aggregator. That's not really the idea. I think the idea is like eventually I would love for it to be possible for people to do things like you know, like if you've got a personal blog, wouldn't it be cool if you could hook up your Code TV profile so that because your blog is on AT Proto, we could show like the most recent posts from your site on your own profile? Like, I think that would just be so cool. That'd be super cool. And potentially like aggregate some. It just feels to me like there's this really high potential for sites to feel human. Um, and for people, and what I don't want is 9 million like integrations. I don't want to be hitting the Blue Sky API and hitting the Instagram API and hitting the Twitter API and all these things that you would previously have to do. What I want is this idea of like, you are an entity on the internet, and when you sign up for Code TV, you're using the same did that you would use for Blue Sky or Leaflet or whatever, and then that would enable me, because you've signed up for Blue Sky or you signed up for Code TV. I could say, okay, find any posts from this did using any of the lexicons we understand and display them. To me, that seems like it should be possible, and the possibilities that opens are really cool. It also means that you could do things like, you know, cross-posting comments, and there's a lot of fun, exciting stuff that could happen there. I just don't quite have my head wrapped around exactly how it would work. I don't know. I got a chance to talk to Paul Frazee a bit at a conference recently, and I got really worked up about something. And then I didn't have time to work on it. And so a lot of what was in my head got muddy. So could be that I'm just misremembering a lot of that conversation. But either way, I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of cool things that could happen. And I am now officially overtime. I got to get going because I got another call here reasonably soon. And I want to be able to eat something before that happens. So anyways, all right, y'all. It was good hanging out today. Thank you all so much. We are not doing a Learn with Jason this Thursday because we're fresh off the break. Nobody was really around. So we gotta work all that out. But I am going to try to get those going again. We are also going to be launching the formal kind of like relaunch of Learn with Jason as like a live stream that will then be unlisted, and then we'll launch a recorded web dev podcast as like the discussion part, and a pair programming Learn with Jason that'll just be the pair programming part. We've done the last few like that. I like the feel of that format. It's a little awkward live, but I think it's fine. And I think the upshot of being able to have a like two assets for depending on how you want to consume, like, do you just want a high level of like, what is this tool, or are you actually doing kind of assessment? You want to see how you would use it, and you want to actually get your hands dirty. So yeah, happy New Year, y'all. We will talk very soon. Yeah, you might know a little something about that. All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks, y'all. Have a good week. We will see you soon.